YouTube, what's up? A lot of people like to talk about rappers selling their soul, rock stars selling their soul to the Illuminati. You know, um, actors selling their soul to Illuminati, actors dying young, rappers dying young. They say it's the Illuminati. They say it's a blood sacrifice. You know what I mean? The 27 Club. You know, Kurt Cobain died 27, Amy Whitehouse 27, and Jimi Hendrix 27. Who else? There's a lot of artists died 27. I'll just talk about the rap industry in Hollywood. I want to talk about all that is true. What I want to talk about is what a lot of people don't touch upon. This is the wrestling world. WWE. You see, there is no difference between WWE and Hollywood, the rap game. They all have deep ties with each other. You think the USA Network is gonna allow Vince McMahon to air his business in front of millions around the world, around the globe, without him signing his name in blood? Just like with rappers, actors, you really think the wrestling business don't deal with blood sacrifices? You really don't think the Illuminati deal with them? You're crazy. You're freaking crazy. Just like in every industry, just like with every industry, young people dies a lot, especially in the wrestling world. You see, in the rap world, when the rapper dies, it's either drug overdose or gang violence. When an actor dies, it's either, most likely it's either suicide or overdose. Now in the wrestling world, you know what they're gonna say? He must have taken too much steroids. Man, he must have get too many headshots with the steel chair. Get the steroids abuse. That's what they're gonna say. Because it's more easier to explain it that way since they wrestlers. They have to use steroids. They have to use certain drugs. So that's their narrative. So it's easier for people to don't question nothing about it. Don't question nothing about it. But the wrestling world is a part of the Illuminati. The wrestling world is being controlled by satanic people, just like the rap industry is being controlled by satanic people. It's like Hollywood is being controlled by satanic people. Vince McMahon has ties with the CIA. Vince McMahon has a lot of blood under his name. Let's get it in. Brian Pillman was a sacrifice. I don't know if some of y'all remember Brian Pillman. Brian Pillman was a sacrifice, man. And the biggest sacrifice before hitting it in 2000 was Owen Hart. Owen Hart death was a setup, was an inside job. Notice the pay-per-view called Over the Edge, and he fell over the edge because Owen Hart was a blood sacrifice. They dropped that man in front of the audience. They knew what they was gonna do, and Vince McMahon continued the show. That man was a blood sacrifice, bro. And mind you, at that time, WWE was at war with WCW. WCW was kicking them in their ratings. Man, when Owen Hart fell, when he died, that brought a lot of attention to the WWE. Brought a whole lot of attention to the WWE because that was their sacrifice. Vince McMahon needed a blood sacrifice. Plus, he was already angry that Owen Hart broke Steve Austin's neck, which was shortening his career. That angered Vince. That angered him deeply. That's something he never forgot. So Owen Hart was a blood sacrifice going into 2000. You see, every couple of years, you gotta see the pattern. Every couple of years, wrestlers die. A lot of wrestlers die every couple of years, man. Who was the next big sacrifice? Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero. He was supposed to be, before he died, he was supposed to be clean. He ain't had no drugs or anything, but he mysteriously died. They say a heart failure at 38. That's another Vince McMahon sacrifice, man. I'm not buying into that whole steroids abuse crap because Scott Hall, Hogan, Flair, all these niggas did cocaine, bro. All these niggas abused steroids and they still alive. Hogan 60 something still alive. Flair 60 something, 70 something. I think he 70 or 80 something still alive. Scott Hall and them niggas. The people that did hardcore drugs, steroids, still alive. But yet, Eddie Guerrero passed away. Viscera, he goes by another name, Big Daddy V, Viscera, King Mabel, he passed away. Umaga, Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect. These are dudes that die young, man, before the age of 60, 50, man. These are dudes that die young, man. Macho Man Randy Savage was another one. You know they got remote control cars. He died the same way Paul Walker died, by remote control cars, man. They're controlling these cars, man. These are blood sacrifices. And this dude, I mean, these guys sell their soul just like rappers and rock stars sell their soul, and the devil come to collect. The wrestling world is no different than Hollywood in the rap, in the music game. They no different. They all have to sign in. It's blood in and blood out. Nobody leaves safe. You know what I mean? And another sacrifice, China. WWE didn't fuck with China until she died. China said it herself. She said, "Oh, you think you can make more money off of me dead than alive?" She said that shit, bro. And soon enough, she died. And then when she died, you know what WWE did? They finally acknowledged her, and they put her in the Hall of Fame. Why didn't they do that when she was alive? They didn't acknowledge her, period. Until she died, and they did put her in the Hall of Fame. Same thing with Ultimate Warrior. As soon as Warrior got abducted, guess what? He died. He did no drugs, no steroids because he wasn't wrestling, but he just mysteriously died after he got abducted in the Hall of Fame. That's Vince McMahon blood sacrifice, and Vince McMahon and Triple H hates Ultimate Warrior. Remember, they made a whole DVD bearing Warrior. WWE made a whole documentary just bashing the Warrior. Years later, they brought him in, they induct him to the Hall of Fame, and then he dies. And then don't forget, Ultimate Warrior done exposed WWE. He exposed Hulk Hogan. He exposed the works in the WWE, and I'm sure they mad for him about that. WWE never forgets. That was another blood sacrifice. Chris Benoit. Y'all act like people can't make. Y'all act like people can make people. My bad. Y'all act like the cult can't make people look like they committed suicide, double murder, suicide. Y'all act like things like that can't happen. If I'm all powerful, I have a lot of money, I could make you look like you committed suicide and then you kill your family and stuff like that, bro. Chris Benoit was another blood sacrifice, man. Y'all don't know if he killed his. Y'all don't know if he killed his son, his wife. We don't know that. How do you know? Because the media say so. I wasn't there. You wasn't there. I don't. How should I know? That's what they telling me, but I don't know. But we live in a wicked world. This is a wicked industry, man. This industry is very wicked. They murdered Chris Benoit and his wife, and tell him it was a sacrifice, and tell him it was a murder suicide. They murdered that man. It's a tragic death, man. The most tragic death in the wrestling world. And yet, after all these deaths, the WWE still get aired. Because that should let you know. This is for the people with their third eyes open. This is for the people that's spiritually woke, that can see through this bullshit. That should let you know these are Vince McMahon sacrifices. Dog. This nigga's still on air after all these, after many, countless of his wrestlers died. Vince, think about this. Vince McMahon outlived all his wrestlers. Almost outlived all his goddamn wrestlers, dude. He outlived almost all his wrestlers, dog. Tess, Umaga, Lance Cade, Crash Holly. You know what I mean? Who else? So many wrestlers died, man. Young. Luke Harper. Come on, man. A lot of wrestlers die young. A lot of them die young. And I'm not buying the bullshit of steroids. I'm not buying that. Because Hulk Hogan would have been got dropped. Scott Hall would have been got dropped. Flair would have been got dropped. These niggas that be doing hardcore drugs in the wrestling world, that's still alive to this day, them niggas would have been got dropped. Man, I'm telling you, it's all the blood. It's all the blood ritual, man. It's all the blood sacrifices, man. You know what I mean? These guys, you know, they sell their soul to the company, they sell their soul to the business, and that's how the business do them. You get crossed, you get sacrificed. You know what I mean? Vince is gonna keep, as long as WWE is on air, it's always gonna be a young wrestler that dies. The latest one was Brody Lee, 42 years old. What, 41 or 42? There's always gonna be some wrestler, man, that dies, bro. Always, you know what I mean? And if you watch wrestling, there's this thing called push. Push is when certain wrestlers get title shots, they get main event, they get spot at the main event, they get a big name. Like Austin, Hogan, Rock, Shawn Michaels. These guys got pushed. You see, the reason why you don't see certain wrestlers get pushed because they're not willing to go down with the agenda. And they got this thing called buried. Buried is when they destroy your ability to grow a fan base. They destroy your ability to be a star like John Cena or The Rock or Hogan. They don't let you get that high of success. You get buried. You see, the reason why certain superstars get buried because they're not willing to kiss Vince McMahon's ass. They're not willing to suck his dick. They're not willing to get fucked in the ass. Shawn Michaels, he got fucked in the ass. He sucked a lot of dick. Rock, all of them suck Vince McMahon dick. I'm sorry. For you to be the Rocks, the Hogans, the Michaels, them niggas had to take it up the booty. Them niggas had to sign an oath. Just like rock stars do, just like rappers do. They have to go through the homosexual ritual. And if you don't believe me, look up the Ring Boys. The Ring Boys that got raped. How they came out and say Pat Patterson raped him. How they have to do certain sexual favors to get on top. That goes down in the WWE world. That's why in WWE you don't see certain wrestlers move up the ladder because they're not willing to compromise their soul. They're not willing to sell their soul to be the Hogan, to be the Rock. They're not willing to do that. These guys sell their soul, man. If you want to be a wrestling star, you gotta sell your soul, bro. Just like in a rap game. Just like in Hollywood, it's no goddamn different. That's why they all hang with each other. Certain rap stars hang with wrestlers, certain wrestlers hang with actors, because they're all in the same blood game, the ritual game, the homosexual game, the homosexual ritual game. You don't think Vince McMahon done took it up the booty? You don't think he'd stick his dick up the booty? You don't think niggas like how do you think John Cena stayed on top for 15 years? It's not because of his talent. It's not because he could cut promos. It's because he could take it up the booty. Because he does certain ritual to stay on top. You think Hollywood's gonna let The Rock make millions of, I think Hollywood's gonna make. You think Hollywood's gonna bring in The Rock without The Rock doing some type of ritual, going through some type of oath? You think Hollywood's gonna allow The Rock to do movies? No. The Rock had to prove himself first. The Rock is a sellout, man. And I used to look up to The Rock, but at the end of the day, these guys are a sellout. This guy had to go through rituals, man. And one of the rituals The Rock had to go through was the period when he was making bad movies. That was on purpose. It's a ritual. He had to make bad movies. He had to go through some type of ritual, man. Cena too. CM Punk. You see, CM Punk left the WWE because he didn't want to do no ritual. He was at the top for a while. But Vince was like, hey man, you're gonna have to do some type of blood sacrifice, got to do some type of ritual, and he wasn't down with it. He said, F the WWE. And then they tell you, they'll tell you, oh, CM Punk had issues. They're not gonna tell you the real reason. They're gonna make up some shit that he had issue with Triple H, yada yada. No, he didn't want to do the ritual. Plus, he didn't want to work with the WWE. So you know what happened? Now CM Punk is with AEW, which is another goddamn Illuminati shit. Both WWE, all the wrestling worlds is ran and owned by one motherfucker. AEW, NXT, all that shit is one company. Don't let that shit fool you. They're all that shit in one company. But now that CM Punk is with AEW, you see, CM Punk ritual had to be, he had to do MMA. He had to get his ass kicked. That was part of his ritual. He didn't want to do it. He didn't want to do it. But that was a part of his ritual for him to go back to the wrestling world. He could have go back to WWE, but he chose to work with AEW. That was his sacrifice, getting his ass beat. They wanted to humiliate him, embarrass him. That's the type of ritual they go through. Now he's with AEW. The wrestling world it's a dangerous world, man. It's a satanic, sick world. You know, they got satanic imagery. You know, it's just a sick industry, man. It's really a sick industry, and you're gonna have to, if you want to be the Hogan, you want to be the Rock, the John Cena, you have to sell out. Take it up the booty. You got to do a homosexual ritual. You know what I mean? And these guys, some of these guys cross over to Hollywood, like Batista, The Rock, John Cena. You know, they cross over to Hollywood. Because it's the same shit. You may have to do more blood sacrifices, more ritual, but it's the same shit. It's the same goddamn shit. And I used to love wrestling when I was younger. What's that shit? Religiously. But now, my eyes open, man, and I done learned some shit. So it's really sad. No matter how hard, it's really not about talent, man. Because there's a lot of talented people that could have been where The Rock is at. John Cena and them, but they're not willing to do the sacrifice. But John Cena and The Rock, those type of motherfuckers, they willing to do the sacrifice. They willing to sell their soul. That's how they at where they at. You come to these wicked wrestling industry, that's how they do it. You know? It's a blood in and blood out game. You know what I mean? Nobody escapes. So y'all be good. Y'all still aware, and I'm out.